All right, good morning. It is very early on a Wednesday morning. Today I'm up at the shop again. We're going to be doing something what some would consider very controversial, something that should not be done, something that cannot be done. What is that, you may ask? Today we are going to turn the rotors on a slotted rotor. Let's go. All right, so as you can see, we got some spots on here. We got some discoloration. We have some shimmy at high speeds. Call it whatever you want. Run out. Rotors being quote unquote warped. Basically, it's just high and low spots. You can't really warp a rotor, although that's just the common way to say it in the most simplest terms on how to say it. But realistically, I mean, the rotors are forged 5 times the heat of like what they would ever see on a vehicle, so it's almost impossible to really warp them. But you are going to get high and low spots. Then of course, you know, the way the pads wear. Most of the spotting on there's no cracking, but most of the spotting, that's actually pad transfer, because the rotors get so hot. Then after you come to a stop, you know, and you're clamped, you know, the caliper is clamped on there. You know, some of that pad material is going to basically like come unglued, you know, and it's just a simple way to say it, and transfer onto the rotor. So there's many different things that people call it. There's a whole lot of science to it, but you know, we're just using simple terms here. You know, we're not an engineering channel, so we're just going to use simple terms. So, but you know, they tell you can't turn the rotors for anything that's like cross drilled or slotted, but I've done it. Okay, I have my own brake lathe. I can do whatever the hell I want. So I did it to 2 other Hellcat rotors that I made a clock out of. Now, you always run the risk of, you know, damaging your bits, or of course the rotor not taking the machining properly. But you know, if you're to the point where you need new rotors anyway, you know, then why not just give it a shot? I don't recommend it on customers' cars because, you know, we have to provide a warranty with the work that we do. But for my own vehicle, you know, I can take risks that I wouldn't want to take on a client's car. So I'm gonna get these ripped apart. We're gonna get them on the lathe and see how they turn out. Now, I am going to put new pads on. These pads are still perfectly fine. They have plenty of thickness left, but I figured if I'm going to machine a new surface onto the rotor, I might as well put a new pad on. And you know, they're very inexpensive. You know, Amazon, they're 60, 70 bucks. So I mean, as far as brake pads go, I mean, we put more expensive pads than that on customers' cars, just regular vehicles. So that's really, the cost is really insignificant in comparison. So we're gonna get these off and get them turning. All right, let's go. All right, show you for comparison. This is the side that I just turned, and I probably made 20 passes on this, but I mean, I took like, you know, 10 thousandths off at a time. I mean, I just went super slow on a really fine cut, so I could get a nice smooth surface on it. It didn't take much material off at all. Forgot to take a picture of the micrometer, but yeah, I think these are going to suffice. I mean, if not, you know, I needed new rotors anyway, so I'll just order up some Demon Performance rotors, and that'll be that. But figured I'd give it a shot since it's my own personal car. But here's one side, I'm going to show you the other. All right, you can see all the spotting. And of course there's some run out on this. It hit the brakes at 150 miles an hour, and you get a nice little shimmy in the steering wheel. So I will get this side cut, then we'll do a test drive once we get the pads in and get those bedded in properly. Then we'll see how well she stops. All right, so I got the rotor turning on the lathe. I don't know how well you can see it. I'll try to hold it steady. Small bit of run out on the rotor for sure. You can see it moving. I for sure have that on there straight. I like using the big hubs. That way it gets the most surface area and the most weight. That way, you know, good contact area and all that weight will help absorb any kind of harmonic vibrations. We call it brake chatter. That will help eliminate that, so we get a nice clean cut. So you can see the high and the low spot on the rotor. The first little pass that I always make is cleaning the inner and outer lip off the rotor. You know, going in nice and slow, and then just go a couple thousandths on the first pass. But you can see on the lines where it's making contact and where it's not, and of course that's what you feel in the steering wheel. Okay, this is a visual representation of what you feel when you have a quote-unquote warped rotor. It's actually run out where you have high and low spot on the rotor. The rotor actually isn't necessarily warped, but this is a visual representation of what you're feeling. So every time this comes around and you have a high spot and a low spot as getting into the transition, that's what that vibration that you feel in the steering wheel. So that's what it looks like. This is the first pass. It's going to take a lot more passes to get it cleaned up, nice and fine here. As you can see, just because it's slotted doesn't mean you can't turn them. Of course, I don't recommend doing this on a customer vehicle, but on my personal cars, you know, I'm willing to give it a shot. So anyway, let's keep going. All right, there's the second pass. You can see how much better it's cleaned up. Take a few more. The back side's a little worse. Even though the back side's worse, we still have to cut the front side. Try to go as equal as I can so we don't have one side thinner than the other. All right, so I got both sides turned. Pads put on. Just need to go put them through their bedding procedure. But I think it turned out pretty good. Still got plenty of the cooling vanes, or you know, the cooling slots left. I mean, nothing dug in too deep. I mean, it took very minimal material off. Just lots of passes at a very, very small increment. But just go get these pads bedded in and I'll let you know how they feel. All right, so I wanted to report to you. Yesterday we turned the rotors. Got a day of driving on the car. The brakes feel fine. There's no fade. There's no more shake. There's no softness in the pedal. Everything feels great. So of course, this is my personal car. I wouldn't do this to a customer car just because, you know, we want to provide a warranty with the work that we do. So I'd always recommend going new. Even the Demon Performance rotor, they have a replaceable rotor section. The hat is reused. I would always, on a high performance vehicle, recommend it, but I just wanted to give it a shot, see if I actually could do it. It's a controversial thing. They tell you can't turn a rotor that's drilled or slotted, mainly just because it could damage the bits of the brake lathe, but bits are cheap. I threw a set of new ones on there. They were cutting just fine. The bit has three little sections that you can just twist to go to the next cut. So yeah, they work just fine. So I'm happy to report that the car is great and didn't have to spend any money to do it. So I'm calling that a win-win. All right, later everybody.